Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Hail Yes, the Detroit Free Press podcast about University of Michigan athletics. I'm Tony Garcia, Michigan football and basketball writer for The Free, joined as always by my co-host Reiner Saban, our Big Ten insider, and Andrew Burkle, our editor and producer. Now, if I may, for a quick second, let me take you behind the curtain, because it is currently 12:57 p.m. We sat down to record this at noon, and when I tell you we've spent the majority of the last 30 minutes all but screaming at one another, really me against those two. Those two have been on the side. Just over last week's Michigan versus Arkansas State game, 28-18. And if Michigan was in a position to cover, if they weren't, I mean, honestly, it might have been more entertaining than what we have playing for you. I hope not. But Reiner, did you know that we would have such a rousing debate over how Michigan fared against Butch Jones's Red Wolves with everything else we got going on right now?
I didn't envision that, but I didn't realize how dug in you were on your position. So it was a little bit kind of scary. I mean, this is like QAnon type of stuff.
Oh my God. Give me a break. So I'm going to try to make it as succinct as possible. Reiner and Andrew, in our picks column, they're both very proud. They were 1-3 last week. Another fantastic week for them. The one game they got was Michigan was not covering against Arkansas State. I made the passing comment that I thought that Michigan was on the right side of that thing for a long time. Evidently, I'm getting fitted for my maize and blue glasses, the Kool-Aid. I mean, apparently that makes me just the biggest homer in the world. Do I have that right, Andrew?
No homer accusations were thrown out in this entire thing, first of all. Secondly, we had down by down breakdowns of what was going on. And basically the moral of Reiner and I's argument was Arkansas State didn't score on two of their three, didn't even come away with points in two of their three solid chances to do so, and still lost by only 10 points in a 23.5 point spread. So riddle me how that's not on the right side of the cover.
Because, yes, they had their chances, but then they missed those chances. And then it was 28-3. Michigan's on the right side of the number in the fourth quarter. Put it this way, if Michigan is playing to cover the number, then they cover the number. Right? Because they leave their guys in and that happens. Only because they put in their third and fourth string defense do they not cover. Andrew, I saw that face. I feel like you kind of felt that. I feel like that made sense.
No, I'm looking over. I'm pulling up the drive-by-drive box score again here. We got to go back to it.
This is what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing for 35 minutes.
We're going right back to it. But basically, they first of all, why Michigan decided to pull their starters? I mean, first of all, no one made them do that. Secondly, wasn't it after when did Davis Warren throw his third interception?
It was 21-3 when Warren in the third.
And then Arkansas State threw another interception after that. And then Michigan scored. So it's 28-3. Arkansas State punts, Michigan punts, touchdown, punt, touchdown.
But there you go. It's 28-3 and Arkansas has punted.
But if you're
Michigan
28-3 with basically the entire
ball. I'm sorry, this is bad.
With the entire fourth quarter. No. Basically, the entire fourth quarter left to play. Anyone knows when you're talking about, the spreads for the favorites are always going to be higher because, the college teams are a lot better than the teams they're playing. It's not like the NFL where there are two favorite teams. You're going into the fourth quarter, you better have some wiggle room. And Michigan had a 1.5 of wiggle room when they pulled their starters. I mean, that's not necessarily like, they got killed on the spread there. I thought Arkansas State had a lot of chances to score, didn't score, still lost by 10 points. In my book, that's the right side of the bet, but I beg to differ, and we should probably move on because no one wants to hear our silly arguments anymore.
I think we should, because never do I let someone else have the final word, but I like Andrew so much I will make an exception just this time. But yeah, I mean, we're putting a bow on Michigan, Arkansas State, and we are turning our attention not just to Michigan and its Big Ten opener against USC, but obviously the news of the day, the news of the week, Davis Warren benched, Alex Orji in at starting quarterback. And I guess let's just tie up the Davis Warren thoughts, Reiner, because even last week, I think there were throws to like, right? I mean, 11 completions, many of them 10 plus yards downfield. The real story of Davis Warren, hopefully for him, it's not his Michigan tenure, but it seems like it might be short-lived, was just the major mistake. I mean, he completed 2/3 of his passes through 3 games, but 6 interceptions in 3 weeks, including 3 against Arkansas State, when his number one job is protect the football, it seems like it didn't leave that much of a choice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he completed every pass technically on Saturday. Just 3 of them went to the other team. So, yeah, I mean, that's just not going to be good enough for Michigan and the thin margin of error that they have with this particular offense. I mean, they've got to be able to keep the ball and not put their defense in sudden change situations and binds. And that was kind of the prerequisite, main priority for the quarterback that was picked, was to be able to kind of protect the football. Sherrone Moore said that at Big Ten Media Days. It was an emphasis throughout the camp, I think, and ultimately factored into the decision why they went with Warren over Orji. I think Orji was, rumored to have been turning the ball over in practice, I guess, during that preseason camp. And so, yeah, I think that when they saw that Davis Warren couldn't keep the ball out of harm's way, they had to make the switch. So here we are. And at the same token, it does kind of speak to the decision making ultimately for Sherrone Moore and Kirk Campbell. I mean, I asked in the preseason before camps opened how committed they were to be. How committed were they going to be to the starter that they picked? And they said that they were going to be committed, and they felt like they were going to make the right choice and they were going to stick by that starter. Well, turns out they didn't. And so Alex Orji is the guy now.
Yeah. Just to put a final point on it, it's because of what you said. I mean, Davis did the only thing he couldn't do, right? I mean, I think if he Davis, he was completing 2/3 of his passes, even if it's below 60%, I think even if he's completing 55% of his throws and just throwing it away, right? If he's at 55% completions with no turnovers right now, I don't think Michigan makes a quarterback change. It's just what you said. Because there is such little room for error, because it's not an explosive offense, at minimum, what Michigan needs to be doing is flipping the field and making teams earn it against their defense, right? I mean, part of our whole ridiculous discussion early before we hit the button recording was about that initial drive, right? That pick that Davis set up, that the younger Willikis intercepted, right? And then they return it back. And so we're even looking at that just in different ways, right? I mean, Michigan's defense stand tall and come up with a stop. All they have to do is maybe it's easier said than done with how much they've turned it over, but just don't make the horrific throw. Now, some interceptions will happen via fluke, right? I mean, even his second one, like he thought he has an open window. A defender just gets their finger on his elbow and it changes the angle of it, right? That can happen. What can't happen is fading away, throwing off your back foot with pressure in your face. There's just no reason for it. And so that is how we've reached the Alex Orji portion of the show and this season. Quickly, Alex Orji has thrown 7 passes in his career. He is a junior. 4 for 7. Now, 2 of those 4 completions have been for touchdowns this year, but they were both on play actions right near the goal line. Reiner, I mean, this is the $1 million question. I mean, how different do we think this offense will be? I mean, it's going to be RPO. They're going to lean on the run game, Orji, Mullings, Edwards, or is it going to still be kind of similar? Like we don't want to completely get away from the fact that we think we can throw the ball. However, now we have that additional man you have to account for. And so maybe that could open things up too without drastically changing this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see a lot more read option plays with Alex Orji, but at the same token, I mean, how functional will they be is a question because, I mean, one argument is that teams are obviously going to stack the box and make him try to throw. But then the counter argument to that is that, well, I mean, they're going to have to account for Orji on the perimeter, which could possibly open up lanes between the tackles for Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards. So you can see it going both ways potentially, depending on how successful they are at winning at the point of attack. I'm talking about the offensive line. And that still remains a question. But I think, and also the idea that Orji, again, kind of protects the offensive line. I mean, again, this offensive line is still gelling and it's a work in progress. So that was always, I thought, the argument. I wrote this back in June that he could help maybe the offensive line along because pass protection has been an issue at certain times. Some of those pass protection breakdowns led to the interceptions that Davis Warren threw. So in theory, Alex Orji kind of helps that because he can escape pressure and be able to kind of still get clear sight lines for his throws, whereas Davis Warren can't do that because he lacks the mobility that Orji has.
I don't know that I'm willing to go yet all the way that like Orji in there helps the line, only in the sense that what we've seen is when there's a quarterback who knows how to navigate the pocket, if you can just move within the pocket and then extend. I mean, JJ was not as fast as Orji. He is, I would wager he's better at avoiding the rush. I mean, because he knows how to feel presence. He knows how to feel pressure. He knows how to read a defense. There are layers to it. Now with Alex, what happens if and when, I guess I can't say when, let's say if, he's kind of, what we're anticipating is a lot of one read throws, right? Like there's going to be a hot receiver on the play. This is where you're going. And if not, then you probably got to be athletic and make plan B. With him running around back there, sometimes say a tackle is like, I mean, they're just trying to like extend him, right? Like you're just trying to keep that leverage and keep moving him around the pocket. Well, if Orji drops back 9 yards when he's supposed to be stepping up in the pocket, all of a sudden you just push that edge right into his face and he sacks and he just corrals him. And then here's the other concern that I have. If I'm a defense, you're not running this ball. I don't care if you have Kalel Mullings, Donovan Edwards, and Alex Orji in this game. You will be hitting Fred Moore 60 yards downfield wide open twice before I let you run this ball on me. And my concern is what if you can just really, really pin your ears back. Kalel's been really good. I mean, he's been exceptionally good. I'm a little concerned if they do stack the box that we could see like Kalel Mullings maybe 16 for 70, right? 16 for 68, some 4.5 yards a carry where it's like, it's decent, but just so many bodies. I do you share that concern at all?
I mean, sure, of course. I mean, again, they're limited with their outside skill position players. And so if they can't, create the threat of a deep shot, then yeah, they're going to have some issues, I think, potentially. At the same token, again, I think Orji may be able to do some things where, again, he pulls defenders away, which opens some stuff up the middle, potentially for Kalel, and less so for Donovan Edwards, because I don't think he's a great between the tackles runner. And I think they need to just go with Kalel as the primary back. Like, what are we waiting for? I mean, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, everybody sees it. He's the far better runner and much more reliable on a down-to-down basis. They could maybe use Edwards again as a slot receiver or do some more stuff in the passing game. Maybe, maybe out of the backfield, some swing passes or something. But it's clear that Kalel Mullings is the guy. And so I think Kalel Mullings with Alex Orji is a little bit more of a potent combination than, say, Alex Orji with Donovan Edwards at this point.
And, just another layer to the Mullings argument. Two of Michigan's worst plays on Saturday. I mean, this first Warren pick that we keep alluding to, he doesn't have to throw this ball. Actually throwing the interception is on him. But there's no pressure in his face, and he's not fading away. If Donovan Edwards takes the fake handoff on the right side, then completes his assignment and chips the edge rusher, right? Then nobody's having this conversation, probably. But that's not what happened. And then I think it was the next drive or the next quarter. He does the same thing. He takes the play action handoff on the wrong side. Instead of 1st and 10, Warren's looking at 2nd and 18. He gets sacked, and that's the end of the drive. And so,
well, that speaks to a larger issue that I wrote about after the game, is that this team is really sloppy. I mean, it's not a particularly well-coached team at the moment. It doesn't look that way. They miss tackles. The receivers pull up on routes. There's miscommunications that lead to, breakdowns in pass protection. They've made some curious choices with personnel. I mean, again, everybody's looking at
7 penalties for 70 yards in one game. That would be Michigan for a month.
Right.
Literally for a month last year.
Right. And so they've doubled their rate of penalties basically so far, and they're committing far more turnovers. Obviously, the 6 interceptions being the main issue, but it's kind of disconcerting if you're a Michigan fan to see how sloppy the play has been across the board. This is not just offense; it's also the defense as well.
Which is actually one of the things we were arguing about in the pre-show, right? Not to bring everything back to Arkansas State, but just like which is it, right? Because Michigan's defense on that opening drive, they had them stopped. It was 3rd and 20. They forced them on a 9-yard gain out of bounds. It was about to be a punt. However, late hit out of bounds, Quentin Johnson extends the drive, and then there's points, right? Is that bad? I mean, clearly that's bad discipline, but like, is that like, oh, we need to be concerned about the defense? Or it's like, if they don't make that one just inexplicable boneheaded error, then the first 7 drives of Arkansas State's day are all looking like less than 20 yards. You know what I mean? So I can see glass half full and glass half empty with this. Can you, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, bad teams make bad plays, undisciplined plays, right? How many years do we watch the Detroit Lions do crap like that? You know what I mean? Like, always make an untimely penalty, or some dumb player would run it out of bounds at the worst time, and and next thing you know, they lose the game. So I think some of that can certainly be chalked up to, if it was like last year's Michigan team, if someone on Michigan last year made that penalty, and then we'd probably throw that out and say, hey, this team normally doesn't make that mistake. But so far, like Reiner pointed out, that's kind of been the DNA of this team. So that's certainly a question. Painting a picture here as far as what Michigan might want to look for with Alex Orji. You look at Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders. I think he's still a work in progress. You look at him, it's a lot of one read, and then he takes off and runs. Obviously that doesn't work long-term in the NFL. However, I think the hope for Michigan might be that maybe that is enough for this team to get by. Because like Tony said, take out the fourth quarter. The defense was impressive against Arkansas State. Texas, now number 1 in the nation, maybe you throw that one out. But if Alex Orji is able to just make that one read, not miss wide open passes like he did last week on the what would have been a walk-in touchdown, and use his legs if anything breaks down, maybe that is enough to win with this team. But that's got to be the hope, right, Reiner? I mean, that's why they're making the switch ultimately.
Well, I also think, again, the goal all along, I mean, as it relates to Orji, was to take advantage of the personnel that Michigan has, which is, their best personnel is tight ends, running backs. And, so that would lead you to believe that, they can maybe power teams at the line of scrimmage, and that Alex Orji may be the best suited to do that, since they're not going to be throwing the ball to the outside skill position players anyway. Question now, though, is obviously if Loveland is injured, that takes away a big target for Orji. At the same token, that was the best connection that Davis Warren had. So maybe they decide, if they're not going to have Loveland available, you might as well just, run this kind of almost exclusive run-based offense and hope that you can get a little bit out of the passing game here and there. But it's an interesting choice. I don't think it's a great choice that they had. I think they had, basically they're choosing between 2 relatively bad options. So
they didn't have good options, which again, but that's on them, right? Who's the one putting the options in this room, right? They're entirely in charge of it. And so you can't just blame that. But I want to, if we can, as we sort of wrap up the Orji thoughts before we get into the USC stuff, I was looking back. I mean, there's just such limited film on what Alex Orji looks like. Now, I know he did just run a full quarter of offense, but again, I don't think Michigan was really trying to show anything. It was, as we said, it was a 25-point game. It was the fourth quarter. That probably is what it will look like a lot, right? Like 8 of 9 plays on that drive were a run, and they did take a deep shot, but we didn't see a lot in the passing game, so there's not a ton to go off of. So I went back to the spring game just to sort of see what he looked like, and I mean, there were some good play. Now, I only spent like 30 minutes on this before the show. I'm going to be doing a little more later, so it's not like I've seen every single snap. But there were like 3 or 4 plays that really stood out to me. One is just it was just kind of a nothing play. I think it was in the second half. Peyton O'Leary, he's sort of in a stacked receiver formation, and O'Leary is on the outside, and then I don't remember who stacked over him. It's sort of a shallow out and then a deeper out, which just opens up, like it separates the defenders. Orji, I mean, he just throws a bullet. This got to be a 30-yard throw across the field, across the formation. It's an 8-yard out, the route is, but it hits O'Leary right in stride. He turns it upfield, 12 yards, first gain. I mean, first down. I mean, perfect play. But then there are a number of other plays that look more concerning. The one to me that was really the worst, it was fourth quarter, 17-7, 3rd and 3 near midfield. Michigan's in a 4 wide receiver set, and immediately Orji drops back. The first read is the tight end over the middle. He's open. I mean, he is open. As soon as Orji hits that third step of his drop, it's got to be fired. It's got to be put there, and you're moving the sticks. Maybe you say he doesn't want to force it, no problem. Here's the problem. He never makes it beyond that read. He does not make it to a second read. And I couldn't quite see who the receiver was. I think it might have been Fred Moore. Irrelevant. Doesn't matter who it was. When I tell you there was a receiver at the top of the screen, I mean, just like this. If for anyone who's not watching the video, like arms up, just standing wide open. And he rolls that way. He rolls right in front of this receiver. Never sees him. He's running. Then Ben Hall. So that's, he misses the tight end. He misses the receiver. Then Ben Hall, his last safety valve, the running back, is kind of running with him. And then he starts going upfield for like a little dump. And there was some grass, like some green area to run in front of him. He doesn't throw it to him either. And then he does, I know he's probably not trying to get hurt in the spring game, but it's not like he even lowers his shoulder and runs forward. He kind of like slowly jogs. He's tackled by Jimmy Rolder, 4th and 2. I know that was a lot of description for one random play in the spring. That felt relevant to me. And the more I look back at it, I mean, it was a couple of very simple pitch and catch throws that he didn't even see. And so now maybe there's been a ton of progression. Maybe it was just a bad play. I'm not a quarterback guru. I'm not paid $5.5 million like Sherrone Moore is to make this call. That'd be nice. And so I don't know, but there, I mean, I don't think, I mean, this passing game is not going to just start clicking. It's now, if the run game is enough to control the time of possession, to move the sticks, and just put enough points on the board for the defense to eat.
Well, yeah. I mean, and again, what Kirk Campbell's probably going to do, because this is what a lot of OCs do with a new quarterback, he's going to cut the reads down to half a field. That's what they do. And so that's what's going to happen with probably Alex Orji here, I would assume. And you're going to have, again, like you said, probably first read, but they're going to be consigned to one area of the field, and that's it. I mean, that's what Alabama did. There's the Alabama reference with Jalen Hurts when he was initially starting, and so that continued on basically up until the time that he was replaced. And obviously, Jalen Hurts developed he developed as a much better passer at OU than he did at Alabama, but they were limited with what they could do with Jalen Hurts. Then I assume Kirk Campbell's going to be pretty limited as far as what he's really willing to do with Alex Orji. I don't think the full scope of the field is going to be available.
Yeah, you're going to need, I mean, a lot of flood routes, right? All going to one side, maybe some mesh routes, getting things, shadow crossers, screens, right? High percentage throws. But quickly, Reiner, who was Oklahoma's coach for Jalen Hurts?
Riley. There's your segue.
There we go. There we go. So we do have a coach who has coached up a quarterback to new heights. And with that, we will take a break. And on the other end, we will start looking at Lincoln Riley's new team, the USC Trojans, and how they match up with Michigan. Don't go anywhere. This is Hail Yes. Welcome back, everybody. Big Ten season is here. Classic Big Ten matchup. Michigan, USC, just two Midwest blue bloods ready to duke it out, you know. But no, this is the new college football. It's fun. It's funny. Someone else on the beat made a joke to Sherrone Moore. I think he kind of missed it a few weeks back when Michigan was going to play Texas and called it a classic Big Ten SEC matchup. So with all the conference realignment, we got to get all the lame dad jokes in there. But I mean, if you're a TV network, this is what you're salivating about, right? I mean, these are two beautiful brands. I mean, I remember growing up watching Michigan USC Rose Bowls. It's pretty cool when these teams meet, and now it's going to happen with. I mean, I guess you can't say more on the line than a Rose Bowl, but with a whole lot on the line, you could really argue the season.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a different USC team than we're used to, especially under Lincoln Riley. They actually have a defense ranked top 20 in scoring defense, which is, again, troublesome for Michigan because of what's going on with their offense. So Danton Lynn, the defensive coordinator, he's got Ravens ties. You know, he's done a really good job, or did a really good job at UCLA. USC poached him, kind of cross down rivalry action going on there. And so he's kind of totally changed USC's mindset, and may have raised their ceiling this season, putting them in position to possibly make the college football playoff, you know, just by basically not being Alex Grinch. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, the Grinch is out, the Lin is in, and I mean, it's hard to have a bigger turnaround in just one off season in the positive way. I mean, Michigan might be seeing it on the wrong direction, right? On offense, USC has taken that big of a leap to the positive on defense. I mean, for any long-term, quote, this is our second season of this, so for anybody who listened last year with any regularity, you heard me in particular, but I think all of us, I mean, just lambaste USC at every chance I got, because it was just the worst tackling I had ever seen out of a Power 5 team in my life. Last season's USC team, bar none. Now they tackle. And that's how you go from 116th in total defense to 56th. And now 56 might not sound great, but they've already faced LSU, right? Like they faced a powerful offense, and that's total defense. That's yards. And Reiner, you touched on it. Scoring defense, they went from 118th to 18th. They are 100 spots better than they were last season. And I mean, they were giving up like 10 points a game. And when they got, I mean, just game records like defensive end Anthony Lucas might be their best player. That's who Sherrone Moore said. I mean, he said 6, we got him circled. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see you see the running back line up on whichever side of Orji 6 is on. You see some tight end. I mean, maybe Marlon Klein, a little more inline stuff. Max Bredesen, they'll be asking him to chip and to try to do some things there. But really, I know we're talking about the improvement on USC on defense. Every bit as much the story is Miller Moss taking over for Caleb Williams, right? He didn't win the Heisman last year. He did 2 years ago, but he's the number 1 draft pick in the NFL, widely perceived as the most talented quarterback in America last year. Now it's Miller Moss, and he has been very good. And I have a couple troubling numbers for Michigan, and that's that he's good even when he's pressured, right? So under pressure, 10 for 14 for 119 yards. Now, pressure does not necessarily mean he was blitzed. It just means pressure got to him. When he was blitzed, I think we know Michigan likes to send those pressures, send some blitzes, send extra men. He's 16 of 26, which is not an unbelievable percentage, but that's not surprising. However, 214 yards, both of his touchdowns came against the blitz. What that tells me, he knows how to identify it, and he knows if you see a man coming from there, throw it right where they came from. That's how you beat the blitz. Throw it to the spot they've just vacated. And in your first couple starts, if you're not getting rattled by the blitz, by the pressure, good for them, not good for Michigan.
Yeah, I think it is concerning. I mean, they've got a lot of skill players, but they also have a good tight end too. And so, yeah, they're going to be able to attack it in different ways. And again, Lincoln Riley, and much as like Steve Sarkisian, he can find the weak spot in your defense and he'll exploit it. And he has no issues finding the formula to score points. I mean, and this has been proven wherever he's been, Oklahoma, and now USC. And so this is not great, especially considering the fact that, again, Makari Page referenced it, the safety for Michigan, that they're still having communication issues. This is, again, a game where you really wish you had Rob Moore back there. And, they've also had tackling issues, and they have a weak corner with Jair Hill. I mean, he's been attacked. He was attacked by Arkansas State. He was certainly attacked by Texas. So you expect Lincoln Riley to go after him too. So until Michigan resolves that issue, I think that they're going to be vulnerable, especially to a team like USC, which has many, many different weapons and different ways to attack these defensive backs.
Yeah, the tight end you were alluding to, Lake McCree, the leading receiver right now, 9 catches, 137 yards. But I would say the game record, like the one just true most athletic freak athlete on the team, is Zachariah Branch. Absolutely. The wide receiver, the do-it-all returner. I mean, I especially with Tommy Doman, no disrespect to the young man out of West Bloomfield, native, went to Orchard Lake St. Mary's. They thought highly of him. His leg hasn't been the same this year. There's not been a ton of hang time. I don't know if I let him punt it to Zachariah Branch, because there's a number of things Michigan can't afford. I assure you, they can't afford to give up points on specials, right? Like they can't be losing that field position battle, or that'll certainly spell disaster. But also, last but not least, Woody Marks, the running back, Mississippi State transfer. He never was like exceptional at Mississippi State. He had like a couple of 500-yard seasons. He always averaged somewhere between mid fours, low fives in yards per carry. But he's got 2,000 career yards. Just a bulldozer. I mean, he's like 5'10", 210 pounds, just a bowling ball who runs really hard that Michigan will have to contend with as well. However, their run defense has been exceptional, I will say.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see. Again, Lincoln Riley dials up here, but Michigan's linebackers are also an issue. I mean, Jayshon Barham seems to be always out of position, and Ernest Hausman has been not so great in coverage either. I mean, he seems a little stiff back there too. So I wonder again, because of the tight end McCree, I mean, how much they're going to try to isolate him against the linebacker, and then also maybe even the running backs against the linebackers, whether they run some wheel routes and things like that, because that Wink likes to play some man defense. So if the linebacker is matched up on Marks or somebody like that, I mean, yeah, it could be game over there too. So there's a lot of ways that again USC can really attack Michigan, and Michigan hasn't shown a consistent enough ability to be able to stop teams, especially in the passing game. And their run, like you said, the run defense has been good, but the pass defense is a concern, especially, from the linebacker level, down to the defensive backs. I mean, even Will Johnson hasn't been exceptional this year, in the way that we expected him to be.
Agreed totally, Ryder. And I mean, essentially what you're asking USC to do is what we've said Michigan should do with Donovan Edwards, right? Like, I mean, get the running back, get a mismatch against the linebacker, and then exploit it. And that's what Michigan's trying to not have happen in reverse. And just for what it's worth, Ernest Hausman had a really rough day against Texas. I mean, his tackling PFF grade 25.7, the lowest of his career, but really bounced back last week against Arkansas State, tackling 82.9, and even his coverage grade 72.6. Now, not the same weapons, but if you're looking for signs of improvement, that's a good sign for Michigan's middle level. How about when Michigan has the ball against? I mean, I know we were talking all Orji, but specifically against USC, Reiner, is there any weakness of USC's to exploit?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't done enough to scout like across the board to see if this particular offense, which we still don't even know what it's going to look like with Orji at the controls, can attack. I mean, again, you would expect that Danton Lynn is pretty much going to load the box and dare them to throw downfield. Again, this Raven-style defense, if he learned anything from his time there, they're going to run some simulated pressures. And they're going to give them a bunch of different looks. Like, again, it's going to be there designed to confuse the quarterback. So in the passing game, I would expect to see some issues with Alex Orji from a processing standpoint to see what he's actually identifying there. And so, yeah, I think there could be some issues there. And I don't know if there's much that Michigan has given evidence that they can exploit because, again, their outside skill possession players are so limited.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, even though USC did win the game, I mean, LSU was moving the ball pretty well against USC in that opener. And I mean, a lot of it was through the air. If you just look at the numbers, Nussmeier was 30 of 39, 308 yards. 10 different LSU players caught a pass. I mean, I don't know if Michigan's had, I mean, it's not going to be 10. I guess we could say that. And then if you look at the rushing, right? 25 carries, 113 yards. That's decent. That's 4.5 a clip. But if you take out their longest rush of the day, which I guess you should never do it because that counts, but you don't want one long run, to really skew the numbers. So I kind of like to take out that longest run of the day and just see what it looks like. You took out a 39-yard rush. Some quick math, I think that would be carry the 174, 24 for 74. It's more like 3 a pop. So it does look like if there's something to be had, it's been on the outside. That's not really, unless Michigan surprises everybody, that's not how it looks like they're lining up to attack this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a great matchup for Michigan at this moment. I don't know how many teams really are a great matchup until Michigan proves that they can function offensively at a reasonable level. I just don't think that they're at that point right now. I mean, even the game against Arkansas State, I mean, again, you should be able to bulldoze a group of 5 team and get a lot of rushing yards. That's usually what happens, especially if a team is geared towards running the football. They usually just, go to town on those kind of teams because they just are that much more, just such a greater advantage physically than those teams. But against a team like USC, where they have comparable athletes, it's not going to be as easy to just plow ahead. You're going to have some kind of passing attack. And I don't know if Michigan has that at the moment.
Tough to tell, but we will see soon, and we will also see who everybody likes in this week's picks. Coming up next. Don't go anywhere. This is Hail Yes. All right, we are back with the picks, and that means that we need Andrew Burkle to take us through it.
All right, fellas. After a red-hot start for myself, I've been a little chilly, not ice cold, but certainly chilly. So we'll see if we can bounce it back this week here. But Michigan, the spread on this thing has gone wild.
Well, let's get some updates. Let's get some spread or some record updates.
It's not like you're winning by that much. You're 7-6. I'm 6-7, and Ryder's 6-7. So maybe it wasn't victory lap and putting aside.
No. See, all my friends would think that that's exactly what I was doing. That's not what I was doing. Just want to reset it. They don't have the numbers in front of them, and people want to. I mean, somebody might want to track. Somebody might want to fade one of us, tail one of us. Make sure you fade
right now. That'd be a terrible idea. Just don't fade, don't follow. We're 7-6, 6-7, 6-7. We're like we're as a group, we're one game under 500. It's not exactly ideal for tailing or following purposes. So, or I guess tailing or betting against, whatever you want to say. But let's get back to the action here. I was mentioning this Michigan USC game. I mean, sports books in the offseason will offer like pre-spreads on big games. Michigan Texas was one. Michigan USC was one. This thing has moved like almost 2 full touchdowns, depending on what you look at. So now it's USC by 5.5 points, right in that Vegas zone, Michigan. So, Ryder, do you think even with the 5.5 USC covers, or do you think Michigan gets the job done here?
No, USC covers. I mean, 5.5, I just feel like they're in a much better position on both sides of the ball than Michigan is at the moment. Michigan hasn't provided enough evidence that they can hang offensively with a top-tier opponent. We saw what happened against Texas. USC is maybe not of that vintage yet, but they certainly have a pretty strong offense, good quarterback. They should be able to move the ball and score points. Can Michigan keep up? Undoubtful.
Now, I'm really going back and forth with this one just because it's a totally new look that Michigan's going to present, right? So there's not a lot on tape. Then additionally, if they are able to just do the things we say and not turn the ball over, Texas had a great first half for sure, but it's not like people have been just marching and like really moving it. Like a lot of these times when teams are scoring, it's because Michigan's turning the ball over, setting them up on a short field. A handful of these times. Reiner doesn't seem to agree with that. That's my opinion. And so if Michigan is not turning the ball over, right? Can they maybe just make USC earn it a little bit more? I'm still not going to go that far, but I wanted to. I mean, I don't know that this is just going to be some route like that Michigan can't compete in this game, but I am going to bring it back to what Reiner said. There's not enough proven. USC does seem to have the advantage, offense versus defense and defense versus offense. I know that sounds the same, but just both on both sides of the ball. I don't know where Michigan matches up better.
Tony, I know you were at a wedding for the Texas game, but during that first half, Texas was dragging them across.
I said that. I said Texas first. The Texas first half. I was at a wedding. I did watch it back.
Popular game. I mean, again, USC.
Fresno State. I will not stand for Fresno State slander. I won't stand for it on this podcast. Yet they haven't played anybody good. I know that. Like their other two games, Sacramento State, garbage. New Mexico State, garbage. They're still putting up 47 points a game. Mikey Keene is still a legitimate quarterback, right? And Michigan held them to 10. That's my only point.
They gave up quite a few yards, and they also
there's some bend don't break. There's got to be. There has to be bend don't break. This is not last year.
There was bend don't break against Arkansas State. Again, they had 2 drives of 10 or more plays, and they advanced deep into Michigan territory last week. So this defense is not the same as it was last year. And then you add in the fact that the offense is just...
It's been on the field more. It's been on the field more. It's had to just defend shorter fields. Agreed. It's taken a step back. I mean, a new architect, right? I mean, you lost 2 starters at each level. You lost every single coach on the defense. I get it, but I mean, they haven't been put in the same situations as last year. I just think I'm not out on this defense. I still, this defense is still, it's a tick below what I thought, but it's because it hasn't been put in good situations. If this defense was
it's
a
not
little
just
bit,
the fact that they haven't. I'm going to tell you. I mean, again,
you're right. They're not. I wrote about it. They're not forcing the turnovers. Right. They're not. There's no sacks. There's not enough TFLs. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Beat on third down a lot. I mean, again, it's
Reiner. I'm not going to poop all over them. It's saying they're terrible. I mean,
I'm not saying you're poop all over, but I'm just saying that like, it hasn't just been because of short fields. They actually have been dragged across the field many different times. I mean, it's not like they've just constantly been put in bad situations. They've allowed teams to go a pretty far distance on a lot of drives already. Not just against Texas, but against Arkansas State and even against Fresno State. I mean, late in the game. I mean, that game was close, 16-10, and they were pushing them, Fresno State.
Okay, here's Fresno State's drive chart. 3 for 4, 6 for 18, 3 for 4, 5 for 12, 4 for 12, 8 for 38, 1 for 9. Okay, that was a kneel down. 7 for 24, 3 for 2. Then, yes, late they were. But I'm saying it's not, teams have not, Texas first half is different. The other 10 quarters, teams have not gone from their side of the field, crossed midfield, and scored against Michigan's first unit defense. They haven't done it.
They could have, though. Again, Arkansas State
could have is different than has. I'm trying to find a path.
You're talking about a field goal kicker that hit 2 uprights.
No, I'm talking about 7 points. I'll give them those field goals. Give them the field goals. That's fine. If you are holding teams to field goals, you're going to be in a decent shot. Teams are not crossing midfield and scoring touchdowns on Michigan.
Group of 5 teams are going across the field and potentially scoring points. if they have a functional kicker, which just so happens Michigan took their kicker, and he's been pretty good. So I mean, you put Dominic Sabata on Arkansas State, they convert those points probably.
It's true, but I'm saying seven, Reiner.
Well, as someone
this is exactly what it was like pre-show. I'm glad everybody's getting to listen. Andrew,
as someone who also covers Michigan State, I can tell you that a bend don't break defense is great until it's not. Michigan State last few years had that kind of bend don't break defense. They were getting marched on, but especially that one, special 2021 season for Mel Tucker versus every other. I mean, that was their strategy. Let people move the ball, and then they'd stop, and then it's great until all of a sudden it's not. But Michigan's defense, no doubt, more talented than that unit. But we said before the year that this game would kind of set the floor for Michigan. And Texas was kind of the ceiling, and USC is kind of the floor. I just don't like the vibes, the what we're seeing from Michigan. I mean, this was going to be a tough year if Harbaugh stuck around. I mean, you had the roster turnover, like crazy, unbelievable amounts for a program like Michigan that's not Georgia. And I just think that in a lot of ways, this is the culmination of what we talked about in the offseason. So I'm going to take USC in the 5.5. And if you really aren't a believer in Michigan, if you're, a doubter of this Michigan team, this is what I did last weekend in the Alabama-Wisconsin game. I kind of liked Wisconsin to keep it close, but if they didn't, I did max spread on Alabama, kind of got that extra juice. And then if they hit it, you have blowout insurance. So take a look at that if you want some pain possible relief if you're a Michigan fan as well. It's a little bit of or
that's when you get middled. That's when you get middled. And you USC
certainly risk. But if you're worried, if you're going into this game and you're worried that Michigan could get blown out, that's a decent option. Just saying. Moving on. That was a long discussion. It was Michigan. Okay, Tony's got one more point. Let's go.
I didn't say my pick. It might have felt like I was going towards Michigan.
No, I think you said that I'm going to still with. I think you said I'm still going with USC.
Right,
all that. So
just getting after it so much, I don't even remember that I said it.
No, good banter is good content. So, and at the end of the day, we're doing a Michigan show, so picks on Michigan can go as long as we want to here. So, going down to the East Coast now, this game for some reason, as an editor, of course, I'm pissed about this, is starting at 8:00 at night on ACC Network, Michigan State and Boston College. BC coming off a relatively close game against the talented Missouri team. They obviously beat Florida State, but that doesn't look as good now. But they are a 7-point favorite over Michigan State. Tony, you think Michigan State keeps it close here?
I think we all got it wrong, or at least I did. I don't remember exactly the picks, Michigan State, Maryland, a couple weeks ago. But after the way MSU looked week 1, right? Just looking dreadful against, I can't even remember who, 16-10.
Florida
Atlantic, thank you. That was obviously I don't think a lot of people thought they'd then go to an established Big Ten team and find a way to win, even while not playing their best. And so yeah, BC, this Castellanos, again, I talked about him last week. Nick Castellanos, don't call him Nick Castellanos. This guy can run. This guy can move. Missouri hadn't given up a point all year, right? And BC, they were always down. I don't know that they were ever really threatening, but he kept them in that game. And it's just mobile. What defense is not always just terrorized by mobile quarterbacks, And so I do like the element that he brings, but because you can find them at a full 7 points, not just 6.5 on some books, I will take Michigan State just because I think it could be 13 points late, 14 points late in with 3 minutes left and a late cover, and 7 is a push. I'm not losing at 7. So I just think it's a lot of points for a team that's 3-0, feeling okay about themselves, and they know they got to get it because their schedule just gets real tough real fast.
So, Tony, would you say the Missouri bettors were on the right side of that bet, or were they on the wrong side of that bet?
The Missouri bettors were on the wrong side.
Just to throw it back.
Yeah, the Missouri bettors were on the wrong side of that bet because BC was living inside that number. I'm very consistent. You can disagree with my thoughts. I try to be consistent. My friends always disagree with my thoughts, but they're the same.
Ryder?
I'm taking Michigan State here. I just feel like, again, the margin is too big. And then the idea that, again, they did go on the road. They did prove their mettle. I think Aiden Childs is kind of settled in at that position. And they've got a pretty solid the defense looks really solid for Michigan State. The players are rallying to the football. And it seems like they're much more aggressive, I guess, in the secondary. I feel like they'll be able to kind of contain BC enough to be able to keep it close. Maybe, again, in the end, Boston College wins the game, but I don't think it's going to be a huge margin in this one.
If Michigan State, Maryland, and Michigan State, Boston College were both roughly coin flips, maybe you have one slight edge for Maryland, I'd say, and slight edge for Boston College. But I think Michigan State loses this coin flip. A lot of stuff did go right for them against Maryland, especially down the stretch. They missed that close field goal that could have put them away. And Childs made some amazing throws. He had some terrible moments as well that weren't capitalized on. So I think this kind of frisky Boston College team catches Michigan State, and kind of reminds me of that Michigan State-Washington game a few years ago where the Spartans had to go out to Washington. It's just kind of a weird game. You don't really know what to expect. And I think Boston College ends up winning this and maybe gets off to an early lead, and Michigan State's playing catch-up the whole time and flirts with the 7 points, but probably loses by 10-14.
For the listeners of our podcast, they would be thrilled if that game ends up anything like that Michigan State-Washington game did in Seattle a few years ago.
Well, the score ended up being a little closer than people remember, I think, because they kind of
was the game in East Lansing where Washington blew them out then?
Yeah. I don't think it'll be like that. If it's like that, Michigan State's got some big problems.
Yeah, when you're giving up 713 yards of total offense. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen this time. I don't think that's going
Scotty
to happen.
Hastings has left the premises in East Lansing, and I don't think that's on the docket anymore. So we'll see, though. Big game, fun crossover here. The first real Big 12. Welcome to the new SEC crossover here. Oklahoma versus Tennessee. Tennessee on the road is a 7-point favorite. They have been darn impressive so far this year. Obviously, they've got Nico. I can't say his last name. Quarterback, a young player, really exciting, and a pretty ferocious team all around. So, Ryder, our SEC expert, you think they get it done here against the newcomers?
Yeah. I think Tennessee kind of probably blows the doors off of OU. The offense looks extremely good. OU just doesn't seem to be quite up to the level that they were under Lincoln Riley and Bob Stoops. Brent Venables hasn't quite been able to bring back the defense to the level maybe that he showed when he was DC at OU and then Clemson. And their offense hasn't been good enough, I don't think, to go toe-to-toe with a team like Tennessee. This is the Josh Heupel Bowl. And I think, Josh Heupel also didn't love the fact that the the way he exited OU. And so I think he's going to be coming with all the thunder to try to prove a point here.
Wow. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. That makes me feel better about agreeing with this side, Tennessee. And I believe it's Nico Iamaleava, for what it's worth. But I'm probably wrong. And you're right, Andrew. I mean, he's been really good, completing more than 70% of his passes, six touchdowns, like 700 yards in a few weeks. I mean, it's Tennessee. Tennessee's not always good, but lately, I mean, Tennessee's got playmakers, right? They got skill. They got people all over, a lot of skill weapons. I mean, Dylan Sampson, the running back, now it's his time to really step up. He's already got like 400 yards or something. And Oklahoma, I mean, just had all they could handle with Tulane, right? Welcome to the SEC, Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I'd feel better about this if it was at Tennessee. But at the same time, I'm not super scared off because this Oklahoma team is kind of just not that impressive. And Tennessee, 69 points, nice total against Chattanooga, 51 against NC State team that people thought might be frisky in the ACC, just blew the doors off them. And then 71 against Kent State. Now, kind of have to throw those up.
They score 65 in the first half.
I know. Yeah, I mean, what do you do with that information, right? Like, is this Kent State team just that bad? 65 points is pretty impressive in one half. So I just don't think Oklahoma is going to be able to score with them. So I'm going to go with Tennessee, and if they prove us wrong, then we'll have a fun Saturday night game with the new SEC there. So
also,
let's go back. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Though Tennessee has third in the country in scoring defense too, so it's something to be. It's not just the offense there.
Yeah, I mean they've given up 13 points all year, so I'd say that'll do. They're going to be the point differential kings this year, I think, based on that early season stretch. So, all right, let's close it out. Actually, the first game of the weekend of all the games we've picked: Illinois versus Nebraska. The Cornhuskers at home, hosting an Illinois team who knocked off Kansas on the road. So improved, not the Illinois of old, still a tough team. And obviously Nebraska, all the buzz around Dylan Raiola. Fun team so far, but for me, it's not been necessarily the quarterback play. But Tony, what do you think?
I think I don't like either of these programs very much. They really just kind of bother me. Both think they're much better than they are. I know that's not really the astute analysis, but that's really just my opinion. And the reason I'm going
10-point spread, I don't think I mentioned 10-point spread.
There we go. And that leads me into the reason I'm going to pick Illinois is ahead of the show. You asked us as you were putting this on the sheet. You're like, what do you think this spread is at? And I'm not going to lie. I said I thought it was like 4. I thought it was going to be kind of close to a pick 'em, maybe. I mean, a pick 'em on a neutral field, maybe Nebraska by a couple points. And then when you get the home field advantage, maybe I should have guessed 5. 10, that feels like a lot. That really feels like a lot to me for a team that, like, I mean, I know he jumps up and down like he's Patrick Mahomes. I know he's been very good for a true freshman. Dylan Raiola is not Patrick Mahomes, okay? Right now. I mean, like, and I don't know that he'll ever be. So, I mean,
Breaking
I know
news.
nobody thinks he is. Yeah. But, but it seems like breaking news. Everybody's just out of control with the hype train. It happens with Colorado. I said it. If you remember what I said, Colorado, Nebraska, said whoever wins this game is going to be the most overhyped team in America. Now, I'm glad it was Nebraska, but I just think, I mean, Illinois is not great, but neither of these teams are very good. I think Michigan State at home, like a mid team like that, Maryland at home, I think they could hang with these teams. I think these are mid-level Big Ten teams. And 10 points. Yes, Nebraska, I mean, they're finally ranked. They got a home game. They'll probably be pretty juiced. Just 10 feels like too many. So,
yeah, I disagree. I think Nebraska, because that Memorial Stadium crowd is now feels it. I mean, they're finally back. It looks like Nebraska actually looks like they might be able to do something this year. They actually might make a bowl game and go beyond, and maybe even have an outside shot at the CFP given their schedule. Yeah, I think that they kind of feel the momentum. I also am dubious about Illinois' offense in that environment. Luke Altmaier's been pretty good for them, they obviously had a victory against Kansas, but that victory doesn't look so good now that Kansas lost to UNLV. And I just think that, Nebraska is just going to be able to overpower them, especially with their defense. I mean, the scoring defense has been really good. And overall, just the defense in general. Matt Rule's brought that physicality back to Nebraska that was kind of missing under Scott Frost. And I just think Nebraska's kind of trending upwards, and they're really going to take advantage of the home environment there, which can be a great home field advantage when things are going well there.
I mean, Nebraska is one of those teams who's invested in their home field environment too. Like the production value is like, I saw this video going around social media of like in between the third and fourth quarter, they're shutting off all the lights. Everyone's got their cell phones going. They're playing like Ron Burgundy, jumping in the pool from Anchorman videos and like really getting the crowd into it. And, sometimes you wonder if you go to games at Michigan State, like feels like some of that's a little lacking compared to where the stadium environment is. So just an observation. But like Reiner said, the thing about Nebraska that I've liked so far is they're physical, man. They bring the thump. I mean, I think that while I was impressed, it was kind of that Colorado-Nebraska game ended up only being 28-10, but it was kind of one of those games where it was over in the first quarter because it was so clear that Colorado wasn't going to be able to handle Nebraska up front. I watched Colorado play Colorado State, and they kind of pushed them around. And so, not that Colorado State is a good team, but that Nebraska, I felt a little better about that Nebraska front seven after that too. So I don't know. I'm going to roll with Nebraska until they get cold, and I can totally see them old school Iowa until they play Ohio State, being like whatever they play Ohio State when they have 1, 2, 3, so they'd be like 7-0 going into the Ohio State game. Can't you guys totally see that, like an old school Big Ten West Nebraska Iowa situation? And because of the new layout in the college football playoff, they have USC on the road and Ohio State on the road. But if they don't stumble besides that, they're going to be right in the mix. If they can maybe knock off USC, they have a darn good chance of being in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Rule is he's a program builder. He did it,
I'm not saying they're not amazing, Tony. Tony's shaking his head, but I'm not saying they're amazing. I'm just saying schedule-wise. We're playing Purdue, who just got mollywopped by Notre Dame, who's not that impressive. Rutgers, Indiana, okay, then Ohio State, which is their tough game. UCLA, who got destroyed by Indiana. USC, Wisconsin, who looks weak, and Iowa. I mean, what I see 3 losses, maybe. Problem, and I mean the only way they get in the playoff is with 1 loss. Probably they can't lose to Ohio State and USC and then be in the be in the playoff with that. And what would their best? Now, if they beat USC, what's their best and win? Lose to Iowa, or probably not Iowa, they'd have to win. If they beat USC and maybe drop one to Rutgers or some weird game, maybe they're kind of around that like 14. They're gonna be right knocking on the door. Is the point? No, I mean, I hear you, but it's and yes, they looked good against Colorado is the most impressive thing they've done yet. But Colorado is terrible. That is a bad team. Colorado State, they were in a dogfight with Colorado State, who lost 52-0 to Texas. Right? And yes, I know there's some rivalry stuff there, but I don't know.
They were in a dog. They blew
28-9. That wasn't a dogfight.
Yeah,
it was at the half. At the half, it was 14-3. Colorado State turned the ball over 4 times. 4 times, and it was a 1 possession game halfway through. Dogfight might be a step far. It was not 52-0 like it was against Texas. Didn't feel anything like that game. In Nebraska, I mean, I don't know if
a much superior team to Texas.
Why are we so impressed that Nebraska beat Northern Iowa, whose wins are against Valpo and St. Thomas? I mean, I don't care. No, they have not shown me anything yet. The most impressive thing that either of these teams have on their resume is an Illinois win against Kansas. And to say that this team that has not proven anything is 10 points better. Maybe they are. That feels like we should probably wrap things up, but I think that Illinois would probably be an underdog against Colorado. That's what I would think. At home, like if Nebraska was at Folsom Field, Colorado goes to Illinois. You think the Colorado favored? No, I think it's probably about 3 each way, but they're probably about equal. All right, well, this is about to be my favorite game of the weekend. Isn't this also against?
Don't forget, Tony, that game's at night, and that's I think also a difference maker in that. I mean, it's if that game was like big noon, the crowd may not have been revved up and the atmosphere wouldn't be. But Michigan knows even that when they go into that atmosphere at night, it's a whole different ball game. I mean, they have that 32-29 game in 2021 that, again, hinged on that one turnover that Adrian Martinez made. Nebraska could have easily won that game. So, I mean, it's like that's a tough place to play at night. And with them also feeling some juice now, I think that crowd is really going to be a factor in that game.
I hear you. I mean, I do think that Nebraska would be, I thought Nebraska would be favored. I think Nebraska will win the game. 10 points is a lot. Nebraska, it's just a lot. I've made that point 15 times. We all see where we all stand, and that's what it is. So thanks everybody for listening, and a couple more thanks to our editor-in-chief, Nicole Avery-Nichols, and our audio engineer, Robin Chan. And thanks to all of you for listening as always. Stay tuned to Freak.com. It's a busy week. Quarterback switch, Big Ten season opener, or Big Ten opener, USC coming to Ann Arbor. Tons going on. So for Andrew, for Reiner, I'm Tony. Thanks for listening.